Hello, this is Michael Auer with the EA Water for People RAAM team. This fellow back here, he's my former training partner who didn't quite make it to the starting line. We'd both like to welcome you to the OhioRAAM Show with Lee Kreider.
Thank you, Michael, for that introduction and for your friend there in the background. We are sorry for his inconvenience. Michael is with the EA Water for People Race Across America team in 2017, and we'll be having Michael and his team on the show on the 27th of January. And the OhioRAAM Show is a show about cycling and ultracycling. It comes to you 3 times a month on the 7th, the 17th, and the 27th of each month, available on the show website, OhioRAAMshow.com, and will be published on the social media, Facebook, Google+, Twitter. And my name is Lee Kreider. I host this show. We are now in our 5th year, and we're getting ready today for show number 138. The show is brought to you by the wonderful people who operate the Race Across America time stations, 41 at Oxford, Ohio, and 42 at Blanchester, Ohio. We get a little closer to the Race Across America in June. We'll be telling you a little more about these time stations and what they have to offer. Today's show, we're going to Pune, India, with Ila Patil. Ila is the very first woman who has qualified for the Race Across America from India. So let's head on over to Pune, India, and talk to Ila. And we're off to Pune, India with Ila Patil. Is that correct, Ila?
Absolutely. You are getting it right.
Well, we sometimes have a little trouble here with our pronunciations, but we're glad to have you with us here, Ila. And you made quite a record for yourself. We'll get into that a little bit later. But first of all, tell me about your career track up until you got into cycling.
It has been a very amazing and a varied journey for me right from childhood. I have never been much into sports. I have been physically active more through dancing all through my school days. And once I got into my undergraduation, I started playing a bit of badminton and a small bit of running. But sports was not something I personally used to do. Being an Indian, being academically good enough, engineering was my first choice. So I did my undergraduation in electrical engineering. After my undergraduation, I started working with one of the IT corporates in India. I worked there for almost 4 years. But by the time I had realized that this is not my calling, I am not someone who can sit in a cubicle for 9 to 10 hours doing the same kind of job over and over. And I felt that I'm limiting myself in certain way. And one of the things I would say that made me able to come to these kind of decisions was that I was gradually moving towards sports in the form of marathon running and cycling as a cross training. Because of all these activities, I was meeting a lot of amazing people out there who were in outdoor activities, doing amazing things. And that's why I personally felt very confined working in a corporate world. So I decided to take a sabbatical for a year. But of course, after that year passed, I decided I don't want to go back to my corporate job again. So then later, because my cycling activities through engineering and stuff were growing, I became closely associated with Odex India Club of India. I was working closely with them. I joined a cycling company that was a startup as their marketing executive and event management person. So that was something that I was doing out of my academic expertise. And being into the cycling community professionally as well gave me the strength now that this is the right time to move on and explore myself more. And I worked with that cycling startup for almost 1.5 years. And I had always been associated with volunteering with NGOs all my life, especially since I started working. So finally, I got the calling and I joined an NGO called Lend a Hand India. And it has been almost 2 years now. I'm working with them, and I would say I'm really privileged to have these different kind of experiences, which personally are making me a very different person from what I used to be. And a lot of problems which I faced, which I thought that very big for me, working with these people, these students, and having this varied kind of experience, that's slowly changing my view towards the world and the community. So yeah, so far this is what it has been, and I'm looking forward that what my next step is going to be.
Okay, and before we get away from that, tell us a little bit about what Lend a Hand does, what you do there. And before we went on the air, you told me that you do have a website. And as always, in the show notes, if you're watching this show on the website, OhioRAAMshow.com, right below it, you'll see a link to Lend a Hand India, where you can learn a little bit more. But tell us a little bit about it.
So our organization work in the education sector, and our main program focuses on introducing vocational training within the school curriculum for secondary grade students, that is ninth and 10th grade mostly. So the mission for Lend a Hand India had always been that we feel that the education system right now in India, especially for low resourced students in schools, is very rote method, where the bookish knowledge is not enough for the students to take decisions for their life or being able to sustain their lives once they are out of the school, because there's a high dropout ratio, low admission rates, lots of things which we face for these underprivileged students here in India. So Lend a Hand India decided that so far it has been that vocational training always started for people after school if they want to look after for some jobs. But we decided, why not introduce this life skills kind of training within the school itself, so that the students have a more holistic approach towards their careers or the jobs they are landing. They have certain kind of education with them, and we had been gradually succeeding in it, because as part of this vocational training, students are developing entrepreneur kind of abilities in them. They are more exposed towards different kind of subjects and skills. For example, they learn engineering, lessons of agriculture, food processing techniques, and all this is very hands-on process, very practical approach to teach them these stuffs. So we have presence in across almost 9 states as of now. We have reached around 45,000 over the 45,000 students over the decade.
And so let's get on to how you come to be in endurance cycling. And there was a wonderful newspaper article about you, Ella, in the Poon newspaper. It was, I forget the name of the paper, and it talks about a kind of fateful meeting you had with a good friend of the OhioRAAM show, Divya Tata. Can you tell us about that?
She has been incredible person throughout my endurance cycling journey. Uh, I took up cycling as a cross training activity 4 years back for my running. I'm a marathon runner as well. And I was just doing cycling for leisure and cross training. Just one fine day, that was during my sabbatical period actually. So with one of my another cycling friend, we were sitting at a cafe, and all of a sudden we see a bunch of lycra clad cyclists. Yeah, I didn't used to wear lycra and stuff. I didn't know about all these stuff. So they are a bunch of lycra clad cyclists coming into the cafe, and there is a lady, beautiful lady with amazing, charming personality. She's taking some cards from them, and they are hugging, greeting each other. So I'm very getting inquisitive what this is all about. So yeah, apparently that was a breve finishing off. That was a 200-kilometer breve, and that was the first time I got to talk with Divya and learn about randonneuring in India. The word itself was something very new for me. So that was a very point that was the day, and I knew that the very next week I was on the bus to Goa, to some another city, for my first brevet. I was doing it in Goa, which is again the same place where the Deccan Cliffhanger. So yeah, that's how it started. And endurance cycling is something that once you get the taste of it, you can't just let it go. And over the 4 years, I had grown with it, doing couple of brevets. Being with Divya, I mean, Divya became a very good friend of mine. I got to work with Audex India. I mean, the organization wasn't even formed properly by that time. I had already started working with her. So I became part of organizing the brevets, managing back end things. The whole when Audit India Randomness organization was being formed, I was part of it. And now I feel proud that I am on the board of this organization. Within 4 years, the rendering in India has exponentially increased, saying that we are at a very nascent stage as compared to US and European countries. Yeah, I mean, endurance cycling, apart from what I personally and physically, it gives me the joy. As I said, it gives me an immense opportunity to meet some very normal yet amazing people out there.
Illa, you were able to qualify then for the race across America at the Deccan Cliffhanger. Is that correct? You want to tell me a little about that race? You had some struggles, did you not?
Yes, yes. So Deccan, this was the fourth edition of Deccan Cliffhanger. And as said, I was associated with this particular race right from the first edition. So in the first edition, I rode it as a team, a team of 3 persons. Second edition, I was crewing for the person Apur Verma, who became the second finisher. Third edition, I was officiating for the race. So yeah, in the fourth edition, the only thing left for me to was to ride it solo. So I started training for it, and for 4 or 5 months, I gave completely getting trained for Deccan Cliffhanger for the 645-kilometer race. But as you say, that bad luck can strike you at any wrong point. So just a week before, almost 10 days before the race, while training again during my tapering thing, I fell and I injured my knee, and it got really painful, emotionally as well, mentally and physically, of course. So the only thing left for me was to get healed up as soon before the race. I was still in the process of healing my leg because it was very painful. I was visiting my physio, doing lots of stuff. But again, something worst happened 4 or 5 days before the race. I caught flu.
Oh,
I was in high fever and
oh
stuff.
my.
So there was, I mean, it was, of course, taking a physical toll on me, but more than that, mentally, I was very frustrated because nothing was going right. This was something I had trained for 4 or 5 months, and this wasn't how I wanted to start it with. So 2 or 3 days before the race, I was even contemplating because this was the maximum distance I was going to traverse since I started cycling. So I was even contemplating that is it a wise decision to do this with this condition, a broken, almost broken leg, and being high in fever and flu. But then I realized that if I stay back on the weekend, I'm just going to sulk more, not being out there on the road. So I just decided,
Sure,
okay,
sure.
the start line, go as far as you can, uh, be wise, don't push yourself much that you might have to quit the race, at least finish it. So that was the idea I started the race with. And I think within 50 kilometers, I was into the race. I was feeling excited. Physically not so good, but pretty excited because I was on the road, on the saddle. I feel happy I mean, I feel happy riding. So yeah, that wasn't one of my best show that I could give on this particular race, but I'm very glad that I could finish it at least in the stipulated time. And yeah, the cherry on the cake that I got the tag of being the first Indian woman to do it.
First Indian woman to qualify for the race across America. And I have to ask this question, Ella. Do you have a dream of maybe doing the race across America?
Sure. Now, once I have done this RAM qualifier, now I'm putting my more thoughts into it. So why not being the first Indian woman to do RAM? But again, being wise, RAM is still 2 years away for me because I need to train well for it. There are a lot of training I have to do, planning, financially getting sponsorships,
Yep.
maybe doing a race across West, maybe doing RAM as a all women's team before that, and doing lots of RAM qualifiers and races across India, maybe abroad as well. So I want to do RAM, but not before 2 years. I want to invest these 2 years to reach the start line of RAM. Of course, it is there.
It's hard to tell by watching you here. From the pictures I've seen, it seems, Ella, like you're a kind of a small person. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, I'm a very petite person.
Well, actually, that probably would do you well for a race like the Race Across America, because the less body you have to carry, the better you do.
Yeah, so I also believe, and people around me tell me that you have all the perks of being as aerodynamic you can be.
We're just so glad that you bumped into Diva. As I said, she's one of our great friends here of the Ohio Ram Show, and we really appreciate all she has done for India and all you are doing, because not only in the organizing, but you're creating an image that's very good for ultracycling in India and very good for women in general, because that's been one of the, more by accident than anything else, an agenda of this show is to encourage the growth of women. And you said something, Ilya, you sort of feel like women are very powerful, don't you?
I do feel, I mean, that's a well-established fact that women are much better persons in enduring things, not only their personal lives, but of course physically as well. The only thing is there are not many women who are out there to prove it. But as we have said, I mean, recently also we have seen women cyclists establishing records, which is as good or maybe much better than men. The only thing we need to do as women is be out on the roads, be on the saddles, and do the best we can. Because I believe we have really, there are much better athletes than me, of course, in India as well, but they are not coming out. They are not participating in the races like these, which needs to be done, because then women as a community gets the attention, which is not happening right now. So the only thing they have to do is get out and be part of these kind of races and activities.
Well, many of us, Ella, hope for the day when we'll see more women participating in ultracycling events, and particularly in the Race Across America. And a part of that is the fact that the people who can help finance these things for women haven't yet discovered you. They they don't realize there's quite a market out there. And I've told people, Ella, in the races I've seen, the women are the people who seem to put on the best show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Aesthetically and performance-wise as well.
Ellie, we want to thank you for being with us here today. It's been a delight. I knew from reading and talking with you, you were a delightful person, and you proved that in so many ways here today. Give my best to Divya when you see her, will you?
Ohio RAM Show is something where really good people get to talk with you and talk about themselves. I'm still just starting, so many thanks for having me here.
Well, and thank you for that. We try to do our best here to advance the sport of ultracycling.
And I'll make sure that this is seen by as many women as possible.
Well, thank you, Ella, for being with us. We hope that someday we'll see you here in the United States as the very first woman from India to ride in the Race Across America, and hopefully the very first woman from India to finish the Race Across America. That would be great. And we want to thank all of you who watch the show. We appreciate your support, particularly those of you who support the show on the social media. When you see it there, you give it a share, you give it a plus, you give it a retweet. All of that means a lot to advancing the cause of ultracycling. We want you to be sure to visit the website if you're not there already watching the show at the OhioRAAMshow.com. There you will see what future shows are coming up. You will see All the past shows, the 138 shows, are all archived there. You can do a search on people that you might want to see on the shows. Also, there's a place where you can leave your comments. There's also a place there that if you would like to have future notifications of when shows are published. And our next show will be on January the 17th. We'll have two guests on that show. First of all, we'll have Jerry Edelman from Tennessee. Jerry holds more Ultra Marathon Cycling Association records than anyone else. And then another guest comes to us from India, Apurva Verma, who now lives near Cleveland, Ohio. And with that, we're going to say goodbye and get back on the bike.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.